In 7 seconds, Steph Curry cannot make 3 consecutive three-point shots. In 7 seconds, Mr. Hill cannot run a touchdown back. Chris Kyle, the world's greatest sniper, based on American facts, could not reach for his weapon and return fire after having his head blown off by his own best friend, who he took to a gun range even though he was suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, and thought it was a good idea to give him a fully loaded weapon. Even though this episode isn't about gun control, it's clear to see bad decisions are made even by some of the best people in the business. It almost begs the question, how much can you really do with 7 seconds? And why is it that the term fear for your life can no longer be used as an excuse for our law enforcement?
Yo, Pierre, you wanna come out here?
So in Sacramento on the 19th of March, 2018, Mr. Clark took 20 bullets to the body. It came from these very afraid officers by the name of Terrence and Jared. The situation goes that there was a call made out that someone was breaking into cars, and that got the police officers of Sacramento into a pursuit that led them to find Mr. Clark. Within 7 seconds of contact with Mr. Clark, they made up their mind that they were going to execute them. What can you do in 7 seconds that would actually make you a threat? Here are 7 things that you can't do probably in 7 seconds just for the hell of it.
Hey, look!
In 7 seconds, there's no way you can make a sound decision. And I'm here to tell you that part of the police training is helping them alleviate having to make these decisions or putting the hard part into their decision making, which is when to take a life. Because that should really be the most difficult part of their job. But for some strange reason, 309 people, which is the number of people who have died in America in 2018 from police officer-related shootings, is becoming something of a get-out-of-free-jail card. No pun intended, because these officers aren't going to jail, as we've only seen one conviction for over 2,000 police-related shootings in America. We in this country alone, account for the most mass incarcerated of our own and killing of our own by the government. And y'all worried about y'all's Second Amendments. They already took your freedom. So let's talk about the facts. We know that an officer in a helicopter witnessed Mr. Clark running from the crime scene with an item in his hand, which he defined as a toolbar. And when I looked up the word toolbar, there was multiple things that it could be defined for, such as garden tools, outdoor tools, mechanical tools, indoor tools, household tools, and just tools in general. But he was very distinct in the words he used, which was a tool. He didn't say weapon. So the fact that the Sacramento Police Department in pursuit, who received this information, felt the need to draw their weapons is very puzzling. And while I couldn't find anything discreetly annoying about the 2 officers in question, Mr. Terrence and Mr. Jared both have very clean records. The fact is, officer number 2 fired the first shot. And who was officer 1 and who was officer 2? Based on the evidence and the police records for themselves and the visual, we can tell that officer 1, who was directly behind the wall, is officer Terrence, and officer number 2 is Jared, based on the camera angle from officer 1's body camera, which predominantly puts Jared as being a white male and Terrence a black male. There are 2 officers behind the corner wall. First officer is a black male, Terrence, and the second officer is Jared, a white male. And just for the record, Terrence, you're being lowballed by almost $60,000. Mr. Jared over here is making $125,000 a year, while you over here making $73,000. Get your game up, bro. But this speaks to the actions of the officers. It's important for you to understand that officers deal with a lot of stressful situations, and making tough decisions on a dime is not easy for them, especially when they have to take in so much information and make sound decisions. But part of making tough decisions means collecting information. And in 7 seconds, there's no way you can collect enough information about the situation you are in to make a sound decision. Don't believe me? Allow me to present you with the same scenario. Find the person with the gun. I put you in the same situation and even gave you a better control. The fact of the matter is, you weren't able to make a sound decision because you went into the situation believing that this person had a gun, even though I told you specifically his first commands were show me your hands, gun. Why wasn't his first command show me your hands, get on the ground? Why wasn't it get rid of the gun? Why wasn't it throw the gun away? Why wasn't it disarm yourself? Officer number 2 put the word gun into the fray and immediately caused a panic. By stating the word gun, he now has a vision and a bias to act on. Not only did he say the word gun, he actively now is thinking about gun. And with his gun drawn, he has no other reason to believe that his life is safe, so why not take the shot? Officer number 2 fired the first shot after 7 seconds, after saying the word gun, after trying to propagate or get his partner to react. And when his partner didn't, he took it into his own hands. They said they saw him reach out. I'm going to show you the same picture they saw. And what is human reaction when you see something like this? Your first reaction when you see a bright light is to put your hands up in front of you because you're being blinded, because your eyes are being overwhelmed. They caused him to react and they didn't even know it. Their plan, their tactic, their strategy was never designed to protect Mr. Clark. Their tactics were designed to confuse, disarray, and give them a reason to fear for their life, because nobody in their right mind would actively be able to respond appropriately to a request of show me your hands, get on the ground, while bright light is flashing in your eye. And if you don't believe me, here's the test again. You see what I'm talking about here? There is no way for anyone to do this job and do it effectively. And even if you're able to do it right now, pat yourself on the back. You're not a professional. And if you are, you know innately what I'm talking about here. It is impossible for you to do your job effectively. So that's why de-escalation and tactics of fall back are okay. There was no reason for them to push on Mr. Clark. They had eagle-eye perspective. They didn't have any backup. They could have spared Mr. Clark's life. Moreover, they could have saved him. Executing him was not the only option they had. And to add more inhumane characteristics to the officers, after shooting him down and holding their position for 5 minutes while he bled out in his own backyard, they didn't perform any CPR, as officer number 2 stated, let me get some CPR stuff, not even knowing the proper name for wound care. These officers have been taught not to freeze, to always take action, to always be the first to draw, to make sure they make it home to their family. While I don't discount Mr. Clark's ability to be a father and provide for his family, a child needs his father. And now there's 2 more kids who have been added to the cycle of chaos who don't have their father. An officer's ability to use the word "I feared for my life" can no longer be used as justifiable reason. You sign up to be the line of defense between us and the bad. But when you have taken an oath to serve and protect, which is something that officers do not seem to follow, this is the same reason why an officer can drive past you when you have a flat tire on the side of the road. This is why an officer can decide to leave you alone when you decide to commit suicide and harm yourself. This is also the same reason why getting victims alive is no longer a priority, because we no longer need to know what they're guilty of because they've already been found guilty in the field.
And here we go.
Meaning they wanted to hide something. Meaning they wanted to talk about what they just did so they could justify it to themselves. So they could get their story straight. So that they didn't have a misinterpretation of what happened here. Which is, they feared for their life and they both needed to confirm that that was what they felt.
But you know,
not really advice, a short story. On my way back from Nebraska, I was talking to an Army veteran who served in Vietnam. He told me that that Parkland security guard who ran from those 17 kids being shot was a coward and would never be allowed to be in the ranks and probably be serving life in prison for his cowardness. Without hesitation, and the most conviction I've ever seen a 90-plus-year-old individual have, he said he would have put a bullet in that coward if he had the opportunity. To which I scratched my chin and muffled my hair and wondered if he would still feel the same way if that cowardly individual feared for his life and killed an innocent individual.